Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Join Scotty G tomorrow. The Minky Couture store in Layton from noon to 3. The best blanket ever is also the best Valentine's gift ever. Go join Scotty at Minky Couture. You can also use the promo code ZONE50 in store. Get 50% off and online, minkycouture.com. It is Tuesday at 11:30. That means we love to talk to one of our favorite guests. Lucky to have Mr. Cole Bagley in studio as we talk Olympics and NHL and the U.S. men's and women's hockey team. What's going on, Cole?
Yeah, it's a great time for hockey. I'm supposed to be on a break, but not
there's
really.
No such thing. No, you're a sports writer. No such thing. I don't know what to tell you.
Christian, was that Wooly Bully coming out of break?
Yeah.
Did you do that on purpose?
Uh-huh.
That's a good touch.
Yeah, that's my job.
Christian knows what he's doing. All right, well, let's talk big picture Mammoth before we get into the Olympics, if that's all right.
Sure.
Nice close to the first half of the season before this Olympic break. Kind of came off the rails. The Carolina loss was really painful. I thought bouncing back and getting their last two victories here at home was maybe the best sign of growth we've seen from this team in the 2 years where they ride these waves high and low way too dramatically. So to have maybe their biggest piece of adversity that they faced, like closing that road trip so poorly, to bounce back and win 2 games, I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a game that in their inaugural season they completely come off the rails, right? They lose in that fashion. It stings for far too long, and they fail then to win a get right game against Vancouver and then probably lose to Detroit. But instead, they like you said, I think the maturity that we're seeing is that they're allowing those types of games to become battle scars and sting just enough to the point where, yeah, they know that they messed up. They understand that cannot happen again, and then they correct themselves. They immediately correct themselves and get back on track. That's what playoff teams do, not only in the NHL but in the NBA and every league, right? Like, you have a bad loss, you immediately have to rebound and come back stronger, and that's what they did. They took advantage of the worst team in the National Hockey League. Not just won by like a goal or two. Like, they let the Canucks have it. I think they won 6-2 in that game. And then to come in against Detroit and sweep Detroit. They beat them in Detroit, and then they beat them here at Delta Center in really impressive fashion. And the biggest difference that I've noticed that allows the Mammoth to really get themselves right is coming out of the gate with energy. When they have a really good and strong first period, they win most of those games. I think they're 13-4-1 when leading after the first period. So, and that's not rocket science. That's not like, oh wow, that's something unique to this. No, everybody. Usually, if you're leading in the first period, you're going to end up likely winning the hockey game. But for Utah, it's taken a lot of maturity to get to that point.
First 42 games of the season, Mikhail Sergachev was minus 11. His last 15 games, he's plus 12. I mean, that's a 23 goal difference or point difference with him on the floor or on the ice, I should say. Between the first 42 and the last 15, it does feel like you're feeling him finally, where he seemed like a pretty big negative after being one of the best players on the team last year. Yeah,
him and Dursey were struggling for a while. Like, they were one of the worst defensive pairings in the National Hockey League in terms of plus minus. And, I had inquired about this, kind of asking some people, hey, what's going on with 98? And not that they made excuses for it, but they kind of looked at it in terms of, all right, this guy, since day one, since he put on a Utah sweater, has led us in minutes, playing a ridiculous amount, 25, 26, sometimes 27 minutes a game. That's almost half the hockey game, and that's not usually normal. I mean, your top guys are usually skating 23, 24, maybe 25. So to be pushing 30, that's a pretty heavy amount of minutes to have to bear. And then he still had a number of goals, a number of assists and points, and so he was contributing. But kind of what they pointed out to me was, look, this guy has carried so much for us. He's been the defensive anchor, and so we can't really. Not that they're looking the other way, but they really couldn't blame him for maybe not necessarily playing tired, but not necessarily having the best numbers.
Yeah.
And he's turned it around. And I think the biggest thing for him is he's playing with passion again. And I think for Sergachev, the fact that this team is playing so well, the fact that I think they've won 12 or 13 of their last 16 games, That's a big deal. He likes to win. And I think when the team is playing well, when they're winning games, that's when you're going to see Sergachev at his best. Not that he's not going to contribute when the team is losing, but he has grown up in the NHL on a team that the standard was winning.
Right.
And not just winning regular season games, but he won several cups. The Tampa Bay Lightning are always dark horse contenders at a minimum. And for 4 or 5 years, they were not necessarily favorites every year, but a team that could win it. So, yeah, it's been a big turnaround, and I think a lot of it has to do with the vibes are good right now. They're winning hockey games, and everybody, from the forwards to the defensemen to the goaltenders, everybody has confidence and is playing well.
I am familiar with plus minus in the NBA. We were just talking about it with Sergachev and the flaws of it. For a while you looked at the plus minus. It was like, well, Mike Conley leads the NBA. It's like, well, he's on the floor with Rudy Gobert the whole time. Rudy Gobert is low-key one of the best players in the league.
Right.
Like, the Jazz were really dominant with Rudy out there. When it comes to the NHL, you look and the top 10, it's basically exclusively players from Colorado or Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, John Marino's sitting there at number 3. And like, if you were to ask even like pretty well-respected or like in-the-know Mammoth fans to name 10 players, like I don't know if John Marino makes the list.
Probably not.
So what's the deal? Well, and how much do you buy into plus minus? How much do you think when you're looking at a player's quality, how much do you buy into that?
Yeah, it's another kind of misleading stat a little bit, and not in the same manner as it is in the NBA, but in a little bit of a different manner because your best players a lot of the times are going to be stacked against the other best players in the NHL,
yeah.
right? And when you're playing teams that can just light it up, especially for a team like Utah who plays in the Central Division against the 3 best teams in the NHL, and you're facing them more than everybody else, yeah, those numbers are going to be a little bit skewed. But I had an opportunity to sit down with John this last week before they went on break to sit down with Schmidt, his line partner. And
yeah, because he's like top 15. Nate Schmidt's right up there as well.
Those two just quietly kind of go about their business. They're just so solid. They play a very simple game. They don't try to do anything crazy, and they're very opportunistic in their approach. So Utah likes to play a scheme where the defensemen pinch, and we've seen that quite a few times, right? Like, a puck will get played into the zone, and a defenseman will have or the defenseman will bring it into the zone. They'll have an opportunity to pinch up high, and a forward is supposed to drop back. Sometimes that has cost Utah. We've seen it with Sean Durzi. We've seen it with Sergachev. We've seen it with a handful of other defensemen. It has not cost John Marino or Nate Schmidt because they only do it when it is going to be the most effective. And a lot of times they've ended up scoring. Marino had an assist. I think it was against it was either Vancouver or Detroit where he pinched. He carried the puck into the slot, and he waited for Nick Schmaltz on the back door and just threaded one of the most beautiful passes I've seen this season right to Schmaltz. So, yeah, Marino is just he just plays a simple game, and he's not loud. He's got He's got a pretty quiet personality. He just plays his game. And it's funny because on the other end, Nate Schmidt is one of the loudest people I've ever met, but in a good way.
Yeah.
He is, I think a PR team's dream. Like
right.
he is going to pump everybody's tires and make everybody laugh. But yeah, they're smart defensemen. And that's one of the things that Coach Torney talked to me about is that, John has just a really, really high hockey IQ. And for a defenseman, that's significant. Because it helps them to be even more effective, not only defensively, but offensively as well. All
right, last dorky stat number, and then we'll talk kind of some big picture stuff. But you look at the wild card race right now, and you look at goal differential. It's pretty stark. It's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
While, the Mammoth are playing very well, 7-3-0 in their last 10, and the Anaheim Ducks are right behind them, 8-2-0. The goal differential on the season, the Mammoth are plus 26.
It's crazy.
Now, that's crazy because everybody else behind them, who's not currently in the top 6, meaning the top 3 of the Central or the top 3 of the Pacific Division, everybody not just has a negative goal differential, but a 10 or larger negative goal differential. So for the Mammoth to be plus 26, what does that tell you? Are they just blowing out teams when they win? Are they actually way better than Anaheim and the Kings and Nashville? Or is there something else strange going on?
Yeah, another kind of conversation that I had with some of the front office people about 5-6 weeks ago is I asked them about that. And they're like, look, we're confident in our ability to start, not necessarily turn things around, but to start trending towards a playoff push and a playoff spot because so many of the underlying numbers, like goal differential, are in the green. But I think that the reason that they haven't done better is a lot of their losses have been 1-goal losses, and then in a lot of other situations, they've beaten a lot of teams by several goals. So when they're winning, it's not just by 1 or 2, it's by several. And then when they're losing, so many games for Utah have been decided by 1 goal or maybe 2 if an empty netter ends up going in. But yeah, this is a team, and I know that we've talked about a lot of growth, a lot of maturity. But I think they finally figured out their depth issue.
Yeah.
They're getting incredible scoring from the top line. Nick Schmaltz is having the best season of his career. Keller's playing incredibly well. Lawson Krause is having the second or third best season of his career. Yeah. And then, you go down from there and you're getting
Carcone.
Yes.
Way to go, Karks.
Yeah, you're getting Karks.
Get back in the game.
You're getting Kyler Yamamoto has been phenomenal over the last, couple of weeks. And the significant thing, they're only gonna get better after the Olympics. You got Logan Cooley coming back. You got Alexander Kerfoot coming back. And they've got the opportunity to, if they want, make some trades that lift their team. So, there's a lot of underlying numbers in the green, and I think that's why we've started to see this team figure it out, win as many games as they have, and push really, really hard.
Well, clearly, we cover we cover different teams, but they're owned by the same person, and that person is willing to be aggressive. I mean, Ryan will greenlight things for his teams if he thinks he trusts his front offices, but if they say it's time to go, they will go, and Jazz make a huge trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. Do you think there will be motivation to make trades, or do you think this team's playing well enough that they will ride it through the rest of the season?
Bill's mindset around trades, as long as he's been in charge, is they're always looking. They're never really sitting back going, nope, we're good, or nope, we shouldn't. It's more of, all right, let's stick our nose in there and let's see who's available. So I do think that they will be looking around. And Utah is now getting to the point in their rebuild, kind of like what we just saw with the Jazz, right? You have so many assets, you can't use all of them. And so you have to make those assets work for you in a way that's going to make your team better. That's not always, looking to the draft. That's, they coupled a bunch of picks and some young players and they got, Triple J, right? Yeah. Like he's coming in. Utah now has the opportunity to start doing that a little bit more. They did that when they acquired Mikhail Sergachev. They did that a little bit when they acquired JJ Peterka. But yeah, there's an opportunity if the right player is available. Now, one thing to remember, though, is Utah is not necessarily looking for a rental type player.
Right.
They're not looking for a guy that's on an expiring contract or maybe a two, has a year after this left.
They want foundational pieces.
Exactly. They want guys that are going to help them long term. Now that, in my mind, that's why they made the Peterka deal, right? A 23-year-old who can come in and really grow with their young guys. Sergachev, similar thing. A guy that's starting to kind of come into, the prime of his career, but he's not too old. He was 26 when they acquired him. So I think that's why. I mean, there were reports that Utah was interested in Panarin, the 34-year-old who just got traded to L.A. But I think the important thing for Utah is they don't want to get attached to guys who are either rentals or who don't really match the timeline. Now, that doesn't mean that things can't change. And I wouldn't be shocked if, maybe Utah jumps into the Nazem Kadri stakes with Calgary. But, yeah, it has to make sense, and it has to match what they're trying to accomplish. So we'll see what gets done. But, yes, I do expect for them to maybe start looking and see if they can't make a deal. And if not, it's fine. They're playing really good hockey.
Are both teams satisfied with the Josh Doan Peterka trade?
Oh, yeah.
Doan's playing out of his mind.
He is.
He's playing awesome.
I know
he's kind of like a legend with the team. I mean, because of who his dad is. He's he's turned into a really good player.
I think that was a pretty even trade. And a lot of Buffalo fans will be like, well, we even got Michael Kessering. I'm like, he's just not that good of a player.
Does he have a point this year? I don't know if he does.
He's like, his ceiling is like a second pairing at best.
Yeah.
He's just okay. Yeah. But Doan.
Nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Like Kessering.
What's funny? He's the only player on the inaugural team that blocked me on social media. I don't know why.
Well, that happens too. Yeah. Maybe he wasn't that nice of a guy. Yeah.
He was always cordial.
Yeah, he's nice.
And I pumped his tires a lot. Anyways, Josh Doan, I'm not surprised that this happened. An expanded role, a team that was grasping at straws, trying to find somebody to step up. Doan is traded from the team that drafted him. The legacy had kind of removed itself because, they weren't in Arizona anymore. They were in Utah. But yeah, it's been pretty even. Josh has proved that, he just got a big contract.
Right.
He's proved that he can be a guy for that team, and I think it's great for them because they've got two young, really, really good players in Tage Thompson and Josh Doan that can potentially lead them into the playoffs this year. And yeah, we'll see. But I think he's got a big chip on his shoulder. I think he looked at that, and a lot of people said, "Man, this is a home run for Utah. What is Buffalo doing?" And I think he internalized that and went, "I'll show you guys."
Yeah,
and Peterka's been good.
Yeah.
He hasn't been great. He's been good.
And, we'll see. Teams got to get to the playoffs before we probably start judging these teams too harshly. All right, let's talk Olympic hockey quickly. It does look like, at least in these early practices, we saw Friedman report that maybe Clayton Keller's not going to be in the opening night rotation. But what does that mean, and what's the likelihood he could break in?
Yeah, it's we talked about this a week or two ago. This is not unexpected. And my assumption is that Keller was one of the last few guys selected, which is okay. Like, this is a really good USA team. This is probably the best American team to ever go to the Olympics with, the Kachucks and Eichel and Hughes brothers, Austin Matthews. Like, the list goes on and on of how good this team is. And so for Keller to even make the team is a huge accomplishment. But I think the brand and the style of hockey that the United States is looking to play is kind of that bully style, with the size that they have. But then as well, they can break you down. And the United States definitely has the best defensive grouping at the Olympics and the best goaltender trio at the Olympics. So for Keller, I think the thing that he needs to do is just take advantage of being around all this good talent. If they call upon his name, which I could see, maybe he plays one.
It's a pretty physical sport. Guys get hurt.
Yeah, it is.
Step up.
That's not his style, right?
Yeah.
He's more of a finesse type guy. He's very technically skilled, but he's a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the smallest guys on the team, if not the smallest. So for him, just take advantage of being around this incredible talent. Enjoy being an Olympian. If they call on your number because they want to get you a game or two in the preliminary round, that wouldn't shock me. Or injuries happen all the time. So, we'll see how it turns out. And, there's a couple guys in that bottom six that I'm not crazy about. Mm-hmm. Like a guy like JT Miller. Maybe he doesn't perform well and they go, you know what, we're going to give Keller a shot. So we'll see how it goes. But it's still very, very exciting for the Mammoth to not only have Keller, but, 4 total players at the Olympics.
Women have dominated to the first 2 games.
They have. They have played really well.
Is there anyone going to give them a challenge? Are they going to run into stiffer competition?
Well, they're playing Canada today.
Okay.
That's 2 juggernauts.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't watched any of the women's Olympic hockey at this point, turn it on today.
Yeah.
I think it starts in 15 minutes.
Okay.
So watch that game.
They going to be selling Clayton Keller Team USA jerseys over at the team store?
No.
Can't do it or won't do it?
Nike controls the allotments.
Yeah. Fanatics.
And it's a Fanatics run team store. And what I've heard is they will not be selling any Olympic jerseys.
Huh. So you have to find those elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hot item.
Well, they've been sold out on Fanatics for a long time. Some other, like Dick's Sporting Goods had some, but they're gone. I don't know. It's a tough item to try to get.
If there's money to be made. People will find a way to put it in front of you.
They will. Or DHgate.
Yeah, whatever. What do you want me to do, Christian? Jazz tickets. It is Tuesday. We want to make sure you get hooked up with Jazz tickets. Hit the sounder for me there.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, and your chance to win tickets is right now.
Call this number now.
Call this number now.
Be caller number 12 at 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE. And you'll be on your way to Delta Center to see the Utah Jazz.
He fires the 3. He hits. Oh, don't do me like that.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jazz Ticket Tuesday, caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE, 801-575-ZONE. Wins a pair of tickets to see the Jazz take on the Portland Trailblazers coming up on Thursday, the final home game before the All-Star break. It's Thursday, February 12th at Delta Center at 7 p.m. Cole's visit with us is brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. Cole, thanks for coming in and geeking out on some hockey with me.
Yeah, anytime.
Cole Bagley, your Utah Mammoth Insider at KSLSports.com. We'll wrap up the show. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.